Political correctness is killing our security. Our prisons are becoming a hotbed of recruitment and training and indoctrination to Islamist ideology. Nowadays, if you're a paedophile or a rapist, or you kill children, you just go into prison, say your shahada, and then the Muslim gang protects you. Well done, Islamists. You've just created that Islam is the hotbed for every paedophile, rapist and child murderer in our prison system. That's who you're managing to recruit. Right, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to try and talk about is about the need for urgent reform in our prisons. The reason why I need to talk about this is because our scriptures as Christians teach us very clearly that we should be concerned for those in prison, particularly the church in prison. It says this in places like in Hebrews 13:3, where it says, "Remember those who are in prison as though in prison with them, and those who are mistreated, since you also are in the body." It says in Psalm 69:33, "For the Lord hears the needy and does not despise his own people who are prisoners." So, JC, bro, could you maybe go and talk with them? So in terms of scriptural principles, guys, in terms of scriptural principles, God has a concern for his people that are in prison. And as we as Christians who are called to reflect his heart, we are also supposed to have a concern for those that are in prison. However, there is a problem developing within the British prison system. And so the MP, Robert Jenrick, has raised awareness about this, and it is about the Islamist prison gangs operating in the prison system. I read from the Conservative and Reformer Post. It's a conservative journal, goes out to conservative-minded people. It says the following: calling for urgent reform, the former immigration minister laid out a series of measures, including overhauling Rule 46A to make national security a top priority, cutting back judicial interference in the operation of prison decisions, expanding the use of separation centres to isolate radical elements, and most critically, protecting prisoners who refuse to submit to extremist influence. Read that as Islamist influenced. Move closer. Now, it goes on. Mr. Jenrick's comments are likely to ignite fierce debate in Westminster, where concerns over Islamist radicalisation in prisons have been steadily mounting from the Conservative benches. Critics of the current system have long argued that extremist inmates use religious cover to recruit vulnerable prisoners, enforce control through intimidation, and plan future attacks from behind bars. The point that this article is trying to talk about is the fact that in our prison system right now, there is almost a free-for-all occurring where Islamist gangs are bullying and harassing and attacking those who are not Muslim inside the prison. Resultantly, this has led to forced conversions of people inside prison to Islam. It has resulted in particularly committed Christian prisoners being put in isolation wings inside the prison system, and Muslim gangs controlling entire wings of the system and establishing mock ad hoc Sharia courts to govern how that wing is run. Those who are not Muslim can be attacked if, for instance, they should disturb the Friday prayers in some way by maybe playing their TV too loud or shouting too loud. Christians will be harassed if they display their Christian faith in terms of a Muslim wing or in the presence of too many Muslims. Now let's be clear, as we read in the Bible, God has a concern for his people in prison. And the apostles teach us that we should remember the Christian prisoner like we are in prison, because we are all part of the body. Please move in, guys. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this problem is developing for a number of different reasons. Partly it's because of underfunding of the prison service. It isn't receiving enough funding. It's partly because there has been an intellectual snobbery that has swept the establishment, that has decided that it's best to run our prisons with graduates rather than ex-cops from council estates or ex-soldiers from council estates, because it's preferable to have pen-smart people rather than street-smart people running not just our prisons, but also our police. The reality is that has meant that we have lost a lot of experience amongst the screws, amongst the prison guards. Not that they like to be called guards, I don't think. This has resulted in inexperienced prison guards who are too young, too inexperienced, not confident enough, not strong enough to stand up to these Islamists, being outsmarted by them, intimidated by them, and thus cowering from them, giving them a free run of our prisons. Furthermore, we've had interference by political correctness. The state, because it will not pick a side religiously, will not say that Islamists are a problem. It will just say radicalism is a problem. But how then can you distinguish between Islam and Islamist? The state has said that once a prisoner is in prison for one offence, the prison then has to build up evidence that a certain prisoner is radicalising, so they have to reinvestigate them, build a case against them before they can act, which results in prisoners being able to go on again and again, year after year, before the prison system actually does something about their radicalisation efforts. Political correctness is killing our security. Our prisons are becoming a hotbed of recruitment and training and indoctrination to Islamist ideology. And the state, because it is liberal, cannot think what to do about it and doesn't try to do anything about it. And when it does try, it acts like soy liberals. In other words, the problem is individualistic, it's not collective, it's not cultural. But the problem is the grip of the Islamist gangs in our prisons is now a culture. It used to be amongst prisoners that if you had murdered a child or you raped a woman and you went to prison, the other prisoners would hand out their other forms of justice to you. Nowadays, if you're a paedophile or a rapist, or you kill children, you just go into prison, say your shahada, and then the Muslim gang protects you. Well done, Islamists. You've just created that Islam is the hotbed for every paedophile, rapist and child murderer in our prison system. That's who you're managing to recruit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the problem gets worse. Because our state is effectively neutral on the subject of religion, we also have the issue of Islamist chaplains, prison chaplains, who under the guise of being a Muslim chaplain are using their position and authority to push away any good Christian ministry from the prisons, ensuring that only the Church of England, and thus a guarantee for ineffective work, is done inside our prisons. Thus the box is ticked without any threat to the progress of Islam in our prison system. The idea that our prisons have a system of law running the wings should be something horrific to us. Last year, 20-odd Christians took the Home Office to court for failure to protect them from harm from Islamist gangs. This is a real problem that is going on in our prisons, and our liberal, secular, soy, Guardian Easter reading, BBC loving class don't want to do anything about it because they're more worried about their carbon footprint, to be concerned about the life of prisoners. And also, lots of conservative voices don't want to have compassion for prisoners because they think that they are getting what they deserve. Trust me, nobody deserves Islam. Nobody's that bad. So, what can we do about it, ladies and gentlemen? The first step of a solution is that the state has to stop being neutral. The state has to have as public policy that it seeks to convert its prisoners to the Christian faith by finding and identifying good Christian prison ministries, funding them and supporting them. Secondly, that the prison service starts to recruit prison guards that know how to bully the bully. Because as everybody knows, and as we've demonstrated in this corner, that when you stand up to the bully, they back down. And that's what you do with bullies. You bully the bully. You break them down. You wear them out. You crush their spirit. And the prison system should purposefully identify every leading Islamist gang member and make their life miserable until they decide to change. And their change being becoming a Christian. We need screws that are big enough, tough enough and smart enough not to get cornered, and are big enough that when the Islamists act up, it's the Islamist that comes off worse. Thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, for the toughest cases and for within the prison system only, we need to bring back hanging.
I couldn't agree more.
Those that cannot be changed should simply be hanged. We do not need to tolerate Islamists. We should not tolerate Islamists. And if we cannot reform them, then let's simply get rid of them. Fourthly, the church in prison, until such a time that the state steps in and protects it, must organize itself as its own gang. And Christians in prison need to stick up for one another. And Christian prison guards need to help those Christians defend themselves. And all of us Christians outside of prison need to be doing all that we can to help the Christians in prison. By putting pressure on the Home Office, by sending in support to the prisoners in terms of letters of encouragement and visits, and creating pressure groups on the outside on their behalf. The only way that you can deal with a bullying mentality is you have to be tougher and harder than them. I understand that. Most of you understand that. The problem is, our elites who read The Guardian have never been in a fight in their lives. They've never dealt with a difficult situation. They've lived sheltered lives their whole lives, and they think that everything can be solved with another hug, with a bit more goop, a bit more goo, a few more validating words. But anyone who's ever lived in a tough area knows that that is not how you deal with a local yob. And that's what our prisons are full of. Local yobs who are found in a gang called Islam that they have found a way to be strong and protected. We need to take away that security from them. We need to make the cost of joining that gang higher than the benefits of being part of that gang. Anyone with a brain can understand that. Unfortunately, our Guardianistas cannot. So we must educate the Guardianistas because they're too slow and naive to come to these conclusions on their own. They're innocent children playing with guns. And we must take the guns away from them before they hurt themselves or anyone else. As Christians, I want to be clear. It isn't the particular job of a special ministry to help and care for Christian prisoners. Paul's command was to all Christians. That means whether you're involved in prison ministry or not, you must embody a concern for the Christian prisoner. It's not optional. It's not something you can defer to someone else. It's something you must embody in your own Christian life. Any questions?